loop on the latest events from Lynchburg Tourism. It's all right here. Local news, weather, sports, deals, and more at the lynchburgportal.com. Your gateway to everything Lynchburg.
So the metaphor for this TrostLaw.com fast take, which comes your way from the aesthetically unappealing parking garage right across the street from Trost Law's offices in downtown Lynchburg, is that sometimes just get it done, like this fast take. And like the Virginia Tech Hokies Wednesday night at Syracuse, they erased the deficit, they came back, they got a big road win in the ACC to go to 4-3 in conference play. They're not style points right now for the Hokies, but they are wins in climbing out of that interconference early deficit.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Just get the job done. It's not always that simple. Look, the idea of being process-oriented is not always something that appeals to people. But for the Virginia Tech Hokies, they got back to that point on Wednesday night with their victory at Syracuse. It wasn't pretty. They almost blew the game again, but they did some things right. Got to the free throw line over 30 times once again, being very aggressive. They've driven toward the bucket. They've gotten rebounds. Ultimately, it's about stacking victories for the Virginia Tech Hokies. And the challenge continues because now you go on the road to Louisville tomorrow in a game that will follow our time-shifted triple header on the VTRN Sports app. Totally time-shifted, by the way. North Carolina at Virginia, which we will preview with Tar Heel 247's Andrew Jones around 5:25, and we'll touch on it with Luke Hancock, Roanoke native and ESPN ACC analyst, around 5:40 today in the Fast Lane. But both of them, we will discuss the Carolina at Virginia game tomorrow, which now, 11:30 airtime, VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM Lynchburg. Then, it is the aforementioned Virginia Tech Hokies at Louisville. That game has been moved up by an hour or so for start time. And from Sunday to Saturday, Virginia Tech women's basketball against Wake Forest. So there's a lot of scheduled juggling that's going on. We'll actually have an NBA game tomorrow night. It's actually a quadruple header, but the 3 college games, all local implications, all in a row. And for Virginia Tech, at this point, it's another opportunity. It is unlikely that Michael Brown from Louisville is going to go. And so I get it. Without him, top 10 caliber pick in the upcoming NBA draft, the Cardinals are a different team. They may rate differently in the metrics whenever he returns. All those things may pop up. But for Virginia Tech, ultimately, it's another opportunity. Kind of goes back to what Mike Young said after the game against Notre Dame. At this point, a lot of it is just finding a way to stay focused on the opportunities that are there where they're all gettable games, but it's the second of 2 straight road games, and with an adjusted janky travel schedule, finding a way to just lock in and get the win.
Went lead by double digits for the rest of the game. You daggone right on my hammer on it. I hope it comes to fruition.
Hey,
go ahead.
And sort of, is that something you were hammering home during practice this week? Like what were you focusing on practice?
Not just winning the game. All right, playing winning basketball, rebounding, taking away the arc, which we did.
Those are things Virginia Tech did well against Notre Dame. And honestly, they did a lot of it well for a good chunk of the game against Syracuse, but it was inconsistent. Had a run early for Syracuse, got a double-digit lead. Virginia Tech comes back, takes the lead, then all of a sudden it's challenging. But you're looking at this matchup, and this is the second game of our triple header. All the action starts at 11:30 a.m. It'll roll in from the Virginia Tech or from the Carolina-Virginia game to the Virginia Tech-Louisville game. I think 2:15 is the tip-off time now for that game. Whatever it is, we will carry you through the end of the better. If the Carolina-Virginia game is remotely close, that's what we're sticking with. Then we'll roll over to Virginia Tech men, and then we'll roll through that as long as possible to Virginia Tech women's basketball. So that's the approach for us. But for the Hokies right now, look, there's not style points. You can focus more on that, but they need to ultimately figure this out. But it's all of these. you're on the road. You're in the ACC. They're not firing on all cylinders the way that the Virginia Cavaliers are. We'll get to that in a moment. But you're going to have these fights, and through all the criticism, justified, I would add, when you're blowing leads, not making shots, you at least have the mental toughness to take it to the other team and to hang in there, and you're aware, mentally preparing, going into a game, knowing you're going to have more battles.
We're going to have a bunch of knockdown dragouts. So you either built for it or go do something else. And I'm really looking forward to it. All those experiences, 4-0 in overtime, the experience in here against, those others that it didn't work out for us. We learn from and fight like hell to not let it happen again.
To their ever-loving credit, they have bounced back, they being Virginia Tech, from losing these close games. Now, you keep flirting around with disaster. I'm going to get somewhat graphic here, but I'm not going to actually use the word. There's the old saying, bleep around and find out. Starts with an F, you can figure the rest of it out. It applies to Virginia Tech. You keep being in these close games, and more importantly, not just back and forth close games, but games where you have the lead late and you're not making the clutch plays, TJ. That's where it starts to bite you for Virginia Tech. And look, if you go to Louisville and they're hungry and they play with a different sense of urgency and they beat you by 10, I can understand that happens. Where I'd be more upset for Virginia Tech is if they get blown out by 20 and it looks like they're just disengaged from the very beginning of the game. Or they're in a game where they have a lead built up in the second half. First half leads, they're fickle. We see it all the time. But a second half lead and can't hold it on, that's where I'd be much more concerned if I'm Virginia Tech tomorrow at Louisville.
Yeah, absolutely. And Louisville is a team that reacts on transitions. You're not able to stop those transitions that Syracuse dominated Virginia Tech on in the last 5 minutes of the game the other night. So you're not able to stop Louisville there. VT is going to have a long night.
Yeah, and again, it's different without Mikhail Brown, top 10 pick, point guard for Louisville.
Yeah,
he's been dealing with a back injury. It's kind of quirky, but in the NBA, just a quick little detour.
Time to take a detour in the fast lane.
In the NBA, when these guys have these injuries, they slow play returning it. The frustration in college is, whether it's Mikhail Brown Jr. at Louisville, whether it's Darren Peterson at Kansas as an example, when you have these talented top 10 caliber players, first-round picks, and they are slow playing their return from injuries, and you're probably only getting 1 year out of them at college. Like, if you're a fan of Kansas, Louisville, for the schools that we just referenced, pick another school. It's a lot more frustrating than if you're a fan of insert your NBA team and their star player is slow playing an injury early in that player's career, because you have a pretty good idea you're going to have a couple years at least with that player. So you can rationalize it. But it's a challenge, and I get the frustration for Louisville. Now,
after Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the fast lane.
That's what Louisville has dealt with, and you wonder at some point if they're going to flip a switch. And this is where, for Virginia Tech, the things that have worked well and have allowed them to hang in ball games. Like, I know we're sounding critical here, but one of them is just the overall physicality and aggressiveness, as evidenced by the fact that they've had multiple games where they've shot, attempted, and by and large made them. They're criticized because they're not doing it all in the clutch, but they've attempted 25-plus free throws regularly. That's a result of physicality, as Mike Young noted.
The physicality, I think, of our bunch takes its toll on opponents as the game wears on.
It does, and that's where being a veteran team like Virginia Tech, like they are, helps them tremendously. And you're down a depth piece with Louisville. Virginia Tech's got one back. Toby Lawal has been back. Tyler Johnson, we know his injury has been there as well, but Ben Hammond has been fantastic. Having veteran players and the aggressiveness that comes from that is big. Virginia Tech, I don't know how deep they'll go if they even make the NCAA tournament, but you have to love that. And it's backed up, as Kurt would remind us, Dexter Keenan Thompson from Goodburger would remind us.
Yo, man, back me up on this.
It is backed up by the fact that their aggressiveness is also from rebounding.
Good. I was thinking about it over the last couple of days. How are they have a lot of long rebounds, and their guards do a nice job of pursuing. Harrelson's a big young man, Sir Muhammad, and others. I don't want to give up 13 offensive rebounds. There are a lot of missed shots. Rebounding numbers can be misconstrued at times because of a variety of things. You're getting the first stop, and that Karam is coming all over the place. But the numbers are what the numbers are, and I've got a good rebounding team, and that will continue to improve as we go along.
It has. And look, for Virginia Tech, they went on the road to Louisville, pulled in 34 rebounds. Another performance where Virginia Tech did a fantastic job. It was even. Syracuse had 36, but you're on the road. You're making it competitive. That's where you are for Virginia Tech. You're continuing to put yourself in these spots. If it's a back and forth close game and you lose it, that happens. Happens in conference play. It happens in March Madness. It's where you build a big lead late and it looks like you pulled away, and then all of a sudden your free throw shooting, which is good for most of the game, goes AWOL and goes MIA. That's where you start to go, we got a real problem here. But to Tech's credit, they're winning games 4-3 right now. They're in a good spot going to Louisville. Again, a win at Louisville may start to get worse and worse if the Cardinals keep reeling like they have. But if you're Tech, grab these wins, because if you can keep winning these games against the mush, if you want to call it, of the ACC, outside of Duke, and I'd probably put Virginia and Clemson in that category. After that, there are like 8 teams in there. You lost to Stanford and Cal. Excuse me, you lost to Stanford, you beat Cal. You've won at Syracuse. Can you grab one against Louisville as well? You got Miami coming up on the schedule in the not-too-distant future. You've got to win in your back pocket against Virginia. That's when you can start to stack everything to build your tournament case, so that right now you're kind of flirting with the bubble. You can try to move beyond that and not have to be tension-filled down the stretch and into ACC tournament play. Meanwhile, the Virginia Cavaliers, they're in a unique spot as well. They are, you could argue, playing with house money, but they've looked really good. The thing, if you want to say what has sold me on Ryan Odom, and I don't know if they quite have the top-level talent that the best teams in college basketball do. Duke in the example in the ACC with Boozer, obviously. Caden Boozer, who's been fantastic. Cam Boozer, not Caden Boozer. Caden's been good as a point guard, but Cam Boozer, top 5 pick. I don't know if Virginia has that type of player. I don't know if they have the same type that, if they're at their potential at BYU or Kansas with Peterson and Dabonsa for BYU, Peterson for Kansas. I don't know if they have that. But if you're in a spot where you don't have a lot of weaknesses, and Virginia feels like and looks like they don't, that's a positive for them. And Virginia has shown those things, which have really been helpful for them. And again, one of those things that has been big is the fact that they are playing like a long, deep team, which they are, going 8-9 deep, and you'll get more when Jakari White gets fully back into the rotation. But it's not just helping offensively with scorers, it's length, which can frustrate you and have interchangeable parts on the defensive end.
Yeah, I think that's certainly part of it. Just keeping a body in front. I think that's the most important thing is if you can force your opponents to shoot over a body, whether it's 7 feet or 5'10", the numbers will go down. They just will. It's harder to make shots over, really quality contests. And so that's something that we're constantly talking to our guys about. It's part of being solid on defense, and it gives you a better chance to rebound too. But ideally we don't like, teams catching it that close, but we do have 2 really good big guys back there to help us.
I mean, look, Tyson Ritter, we can laugh, and there's that whole bigger picture thing with now Alabama's former player who was drafted in the NBA or, signed the G League contract and played some developmental league in the NBA, but never actually played an ABA game. Now he's gotten a temporary restraining order to come back to college. I mean, it's cratering the sport if that happens, because how many guys are going to declare for other sports drafts? And if they go through the minors in baseball, or if they go through training camp in the preseason in the NFL, you're like, well, you never played in a regular season game, so it doesn't actually count. I can come back. Again, get me to collective bargaining. Normally, I'm not big into the unions, but when it comes to sports, honestly, it provides structure in a way where there is much more validity to collective bargaining and unions in sports than it is in a lot of the outside the sports world realm. Like, it genuinely has its place. Not in a lot of them, as somebody with a certain lean politically, but I'm not a dismisser of it all. But you look at that right now, and Virginia has developed and benefited from having mature players who played in professional leagues overseas. Virginia Tech has as well, although you could debate it with how Nico Lizavdalis has played recently. It's the reality in college sports. And if you're the coaches of those programs, you're doing the best you can. And look, I don't know how the season will end for the Hoos and the Hokies, but right now, the coaches are doing the best they can in terms of finding the right resources and finding the players and playing within the system. Kind of goes back to the old Darian Mensah deal where he's trying to leave Duke to go to Miami. It's not necessarily about anything more than the fact that everybody involved, Duke included, are doing what they can within the system. And until the people that are really, as Melissa McCarthy would say, want to do something about it, it's not going to change. Meanwhile, that is where we lead into the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
So sure, bowl season attendance was down, and I honestly think that is going to be a trend that continues. ESPN owns and operates a lot of these bowl games, and as long as this next fact is true, that will continue to be the case. But bowl season averaged just under 3 million viewers, which is a 14% increase when you factor the majority of the games on the ESPN platforms, ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC. But Fox, CBS, and the CW, they were mixed in there as well. Ultimately, people will still watch football in any form, even if, and I'm kind of in this camp, to me, bowl games are a much more diluted product compared to the college football playoff, which leads us into
number 4.
College football playoff viewership. Here's a nugget when you're considering it, and we'll get to the championship game in a moment. But the quarterfinal games, which were the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day quartet of games. New Year's Eve, Miami, Ohio State. New Year's Day, Texas Tech, Oregon, Bama, Indiana, and Georgia, Ole Miss. They averaged over 19 million viewers. The next round, the semifinals, dropped to 18 million, Indiana and Oregon on a Friday, and just under 16 million for Miami and Ole Miss on a Thursday. A lot of that I would go into additional detail is you're playing those two games on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day in a desirable TV time slot. And I get it. People have New Year's parties and plans, but now that you can count viewing in large groups, bars and streaming and everything else, it kind of, I think, paints a more accurate reflection of how people are interested in it. People are gathered around. You've got the next slate of games, and it kind of throws people off. But it rebounded, as we get to discuss in
number 3,
the College Football Playoff Championship game. 30.1 million viewers. For Miami against Indiana. Again, to get my usher on, I was kind of a viewer because I was listening on the VTR and Sports app, your home for fantastic play-by-play. Just download it on your phone and listen to VTR and Sports wherever you are. But I did watch the All 22 cast where they have kind of the sky cam. I'm a nerd, TJ. It is what it is. No shame. And I watched, so I was part of that. I think there was a lot of hype. And ultimately, the Indiana appeal of, wow, could they actually do it? They did. Played into it. And yes, Miami, the star power, the fans itself, Indiana dominated the attendance. But the star power and all the people and the celebrities on the sideline, there are two programs in college football that bring that out. And I think it does attract viewers and folks on the casual side. And it's Miami and USC. When those programs are at their peak, they have a different level of gravitational pull, and it brings people in a casual sense. You combine that with Indiana, no shock this was the best viewership in over a decade, the last one being Ohio State, Oregon in 2015. Meanwhile, speaking of the college football playoff in
number 2,
here we go. College football playoff is going to remain for another year at 12 teams. The bad side to this is that the SEC and the Big Ten will gain even more power out of this. Revenue distribution will go from performance-based to a flat model where the SEC and the Big Ten get more. They are clearly driving the ship in this direction. I don't think it precludes them from the fact that at some point they will want to create some kind of super league hierarchy in college athletics. And honestly, I'd rather get to that day and know where you are and know what the structure is and have more structure, again, than where we are right now. But there's other factors to this. Ultimately, it's the SEC and the Big Ten cannot agree on whether there will be 16 teams with the 5 conference championships, your Power 4 plus the Group of 5, and 11 at-larges. That's what everyone wants, except for the Big Ten, which wants 24 teams. And as long as Tony Petitti's in charge, that's what you're going to get. On the one hand, the FCS 1AA playoffs have 24 teams. On the other, I like the 12-team model. I'm okay getting a Group of 5 team in there if that's what you want to do. But outside of that, do we need to keep expanding and letting more? Look, I'm all for watching it. And the 16 team doesn't really change anything. You just have more games in the opening round as opposed to 4. You'd have 8 games in the opening round. You start to eliminate buys. Or there are other formats that have been discussed where only the top 2 teams get a bye. Everybody else does not. There are all sorts of ways that are around this. But inevitably, look, it's going to expand because there's enough money at stake. But this is about precedent setting and who can say they have more power. And it's literally just those 2 conferences. Meanwhile, one other thing that's worth noting as well, while we stick with the 12-team format,
Number 1.
Notre Dame will be guaranteed entry if they finish in the top 12 of the playoffs. And which, by the way, it wrinkles my feathers because Notre Dame is going to have a tougher time scheduling SEC and Big Ten teams because they're both going to 9 conference games. So it's going to be more difficult for them to do that. They'll keep their partnership with the ACC, but let's be real. If you're Notre Dame, you don't want to play the dregs of the ACC, the Syracuses. I know they've had Pitt and Boston College regularly and have this historical thing with Stanford. But if I'm Notre Dame, I want to play the biggest brands in the conference. Miami, Clemson, Florida State. If they get their act together, Virginia Tech, North Carolina says they're a big school, and maybe they are in brand, but surely haven't been in performance. So that's who I'd want. But the other thing that's worth noting is the ACC's doomsday scenario is now going to be voided because now all Power 4 teams and just the highest ranking Group of 5 champion will be guaranteed to finish, which means JMU would not have gotten in under a format. And it does put pressure on the ACC to please resolve their approach. Meanwhile, when we return in the fast lane, we will talk more ACC basketball, that is. Our guy, Andrew Jones of Tar Heel Illustrated, on the Who's hosting Carolina when we return here in the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. And as that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Mark Dalton here with the Terry Auto Group. If you don't love your car, then you're simply just driving the wrong one. At Terry Volkswagen, Terry Subaru, Terry Auto Outlet, and the Terry Clearance Center, we've got the perfect new or used car for you. We make your car buying experience easy. Need help with imperfect credit? No problem. Our team works hard to get you approved and back on the road. Because when you shop at Terry, you drive away happy. Visit us at any of our 4 locations or online at terryautogroup.com. Terry Auto Group. You'll love our cars.
At the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, we believe personal banking should be as rooted in the community as you are. Whether managing your business banking, saving for your family's dream home, or juggling daily expenses with our mobile app, we offer tailored solutions with a local touch. Experience the security of a bank that knows your name and the convenience of modern technology. Visit us today to grow your financial future right here at home. The Farmers Bank of Appomattox, your community, your bank, your future.
Most elves have pointy shoes. I have 4 paws.
Ho, ho, ho! Pallet, how's my favorite helper making the season shine?
Oh, just sprinkling a little color wherever I go. You see, Santa, my person's a veteran, and some days the memories are heavy. When her skies turn gray, I help fill her heart with shades of hope, the purple of laughter, the blue of courage, and the happy hue of joy.
Sounds like you're painting the world brighter.
That's right, Santa. I'm more than her service dog. I'm her living paintbrush. With every swoosh of my tail, I add a stroke of cheer to her canvas. With every longing gaze, I brush love on the picture we're creating together. A masterpiece, wrapped in warmth and tied with a bow.
Now that's a gift you can't put under a tree.
This season, help paint the picture. Learn more at dogsinc.org.
Oh, oh,
oh. Every child is on a journey, a path from the earliest days of wonder and discovery through all the years of learning and growing to become the person they were meant to be. At Children International, we're empowering children and youth to forge a path out of poverty. Walking alongside on their journey, we equip them with education, skills, and resources to succeed in every milestone of growth. From early childhood to starting school, through healthcare access and learning to read, to life skills, job skills, and leadership training, and into employment. This is how we build confidence and instill a positive mindset so they can achieve bright futures for themselves, their families, and communities. Learn how you can join the journey and help end poverty for good at children.org today.
you tired of static? Wish you could take your favorite Virginia radio stations with you wherever you go? Then you need to discover the power of streaming. That's right. You can now easily listen to the Virginia Talk Radio Network for insightful discussions and local news.
From the VTRN News Center, I'm Bill Trefiro.
And groove to classic hits on Rewind 1039. All from your smartphone, tablet, or computer. No more fiddling with the dial. Just download your favorite radio app. Search for Virginia Talk Radio Network or Rewind 1039, and you're ready to go. Stay connected with your community.
Good morning. This is Kimberly McBroom in the WDBJ 7 Newsroom with our Virginia Talk Radio Network news update.
And enjoy the music you love anytime, anywhere. Streaming the Virginia Talk Radio Network and Rewind 1039. It's that easy. Virginia Talk Radio Network. Rewind 1039. Now streaming.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Catch the Fast Lane weekdays 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
According to my not-so-skilled meteorological capabilities, just looking at my apps, the snow is not supposed to start until at least after 5 p.m. We bring that up in the Fast Lane because we send our prayers to our friend Andrew Jones of Tar Heel 247, who is with us in the Fast Lane, that he and possibly I, if I'm able to make it up there as well tomorrow for the Carolina-Virginia game, can make it back to our homes before all this winter madness from Snowmageddon 26 takes place. Andrew, we hope and pray that you will accept our safety and travels, particularly on the way back tomorrow from Virginia hosting North Carolina, where we hope and pray you will be.
I'm on my way right now. I'm in between Petersburg and Richmond as I speak. And you know how long I stay after games? I stay after and I write forever. And I do a couple of podcasts and I'm always quite busy. And I usually stay for 4 or 5 hours before I leave. So according to my wife, who is my travel agent, so to speak, that I would have been leaving long after the sleet would have started south of Petersburg into North Carolina. So she is mandated that I stay in a hotel. So I will actually be in a hotel in Short Pump, which is, I guess, west of Richmond, for at least tonight and Saturday night. So I will be safe and well, and I will have electricity because actually where I live in Raleigh, technically I live in Wake Forest, we're supposed to lose electricity for a couple of days.
Well,
so I got to do my job. So my wife's like, hey, stay away, go to a hotel, do your work, and we'll freeze to death, but we'll be okay. So,
boy,
I think she just wants to get rid of me for a couple of days.
I honestly see, this is what our congratulations to Trey Law from the morning warm-up. He just got engaged earlier this week. You can hear him 7 to 8 a.m. VTRN Sports app. Our producer, TJ Wilkerson, whom you are seeing, those that are watching at VTRN Sports and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook Live and YouTube, they can all see this. So they can see what's going on. The quote to describe marriage that I heard, it's brilliant. I give Jim Courier, the tennis player, a lot of credit. He was telling Alex DeMinor, who's a tennis player currently today, that when he gets married, he's about to become a 49% shareholder in an absolutely wonderful company because, of course, the wife is the 51% shareholder. For TJ, for Trey, for me, yeah, I mean, you have as much say as you want, but you never get maximum power.
Yeah, well, 51, I would take 51 today and run to the bank, dude. 51, good God. Or 41, 51 for her, 49 for me. The good thing is I get to stay at a Hilton. So, she's actually pretty good about the travel. I will give her that. I was in California last week for 6 days because Tar Heels played Stanford and Cal, but I've said for years, she and my daughter are the winner because I'm gone and they get to watch whatever they want. They get to order from Instacart whatever they want, and I know because it shows up on my on my account. So I let them have fun, and I get to go do what I do, and it works out well for all of us.
All right. Speaking of fun, well, our fun is the work that we get to do and call it work, Andrew. Let's not kid ourselves. You do it for Tar Heel 247. We're at Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and wherever you listen to podcasts, along with the VTRN Sports app. Are we going to have a fun game tomorrow in Charlottesville between Carolina and Virginia?
I would say the odds are pretty good that UVA fans will enjoy the experience. I really like this UVA team. Carolina is working through some stuff now, and Notre Dame was the right opponent for them to get the other day to kind of feel good about things and maybe fix a few things that have not been going well. I think UVA is a terrible matchup for the weaknesses of this Carolina team. But, you know, Carolina, I think, has got a much higher ceiling than how they perform. So if they're going to climb toward it, they might show some signs of it tomorrow. And if so, it could be a competitive game.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, that's our hope and our optimism. I just cursed. I got to beep out. That's our hope because, you know, that's not a very good game plan. But we are optimistic we'll be treated to a game tomorrow. You mentioned you like Virginia. When studying and preparing for the Who's, what has stood out to you that you like the most?
I like how they space things offensively. I like their unselfishness. I really like how, as good as DeRidder is, they've beaten some good teams with him scoring single digits. Like, they don't need to ride him to the victory circle. They have a lot of guys that can take care of business. They can score quickly because everybody on the floor can put the ball in the basket. I love the way that they use the floor to get open looks for each other. When you watch Virginia play, they don't take a ton of highly challenged shots. It's almost like the discipline that Tony's teams had, this team has. They just do things quicker. And I like that because I think that's the way the game is supposed to be played. I didn't know how good a coach Ryan Odom is until now. I saw his previous teams. I know what the track record is. I know his dad. I used to work with his dad. I'd like to see him do well. And I like UVA basketball being good. I think it's important for the ACC that Virginia matters a great deal. And they don't have a Cameron Boozer, Ed, but I can't help but think the last few weeks that the best team in the ACC over the last 3 weeks has been Virginia. You think about, they go to SMU and win. They go to Louisville and win the way they did. They take NC State out from the get-go. And then you go back into the early December, the way they took Texas out right away. They have the ability to deliver a kill shot early. And Tony's teams would kind of strangle you to death like a python. This club could come in and just nuke you. And then they're good. And that's what I like about them. I like the way that they approach things. I love the size. I think they're pretty good defensively. If you look at KenPom, they're number 17 in adjusted offensive efficiency, and they're number 17 in adjusted defensive efficiency. That's a good team. The computers aren't always 100% spot on, but they're not way off either.
How does North Carolina win this game?
They're going to have to shoot really well from three-point range to make up for what I think is a so-so half-court offense. They don't get a ton of stuff in transition because they don't force a lot of turnovers. So it puts a lot of pressure on them to excel in the half-court. They've made a change at point guard the last two games with Derek Dixon, who's from Vienna up in Northern Virginia. He's now the starting point guard. Jaden Young, who was at Virginia Tech previously, started the last game after not playing more than 4 minutes against a Power 4 team for most of the season. But he played well in California. So Hubert's like, look, Hubert called California, the 2 games out there, a bump. I guess connecting it to their horrible performance against SMU. But he started 4 different starting lineups in the last 5 games. So that's not really a bump. That means the coach knows they're sort of in crisis mode. And I do think they've been in that mode. And they're trying to find something that works in the half court offensively because they go through stretches where Caleb Wilson, who's an absolute lottery pick, doesn't even get shots off for 10, 12 minutes of game time because they cannot get into stuff and they don't run what I would consider a very difficult offense to defend. I was on the baseline down in Fort Myers on Thanksgiving. They played Michigan State, and the Michigan State players were calling out every play. They knew what they were running, and it just hijacked everything Carolina wanted to do. So if they could play a little faster and they could hit threes and open stuff up for their front court, then they have a chance because they have the best front line in the ACC by far. Vessar and Caleb Wilson are dynamite. They just don't surround them with guys that you can pencil in for anything.
Andrew Jones, Tar Heel 247, giving us an overview of Carolina at Virginia tomorrow, 11:30 airtime. VTR and Sports app for that, part of our quadruple header of college and pro basketball action here on the VTR and Sports app. Stepping away from that basketball-related news to the news on Monday about the group of supporters that are trying to rally and make sure they renovate the Dean Dome rather than relocate to an off-arena campus. Where does this thing ultimately end?
Well, the part off campus is going to be campus. Is going to be campus. It's called Carolina North. They're going to increase the student body by about 5,000. They're starting a whole science and tech thing. They're going to expand tremendously. They're going to have student housing on Carolina North. And what they want to do is they want to build an arena and do something similar to what the Braves have with the Battery down in Atlanta, where ultimately, once investors make their money back, UNC owns all this stuff, and they want to have concerts and all kinds of things there. And the reality is that the Dean Dome is dated in many respects. It will cost a tremendous amount of money to renovate, but the other thing is they have nowhere to play if they renovate. They can't go play in Raleigh at NC State. They're not going to play at Duke. They're not going to play in Greensboro. It's too far away. Even the Carmichael, where they used to play a long time ago, where the women play, it's been reduced to 6,800 seats, and it cannot house the men's basketball program. So they're not going to play there either. So they really have nowhere to go. And I think that the money people, the power people at the university, the ones who will ultimately make the decision, I think a long time ago have decided that it's going to be Carolina North, but there's such an overwhelming push from the emotional side and the historical side of players, and the video that Roy Williams put out, and then Tyler Hansbrough right after that. Man, if you're on the fence and you watch those videos and you start talking to former players and see what the student body did the other night, it's pretty hard to accept the idea of them playing somewhere else. But the reality, Ed, is that some of the argument is, well, Duke's still in Cameron, Kansas is still in Fogg, Indiana's still in Assembly Hall, UCLA's still in Pauley Pavilion. The difference is when the Dean Dome was built, it was all paid for by private funding. And a lot of the people who paid for it were given lifetime seats in the lower bowl. They can't sell those seats because those people own them for life. As long as that building exists, they sit there. And then you have 5,000 student seats in a 22,000 seat arena. Suddenly you can only sell about 10,000 seats per game. So they're not making nearly as much as you would think because of the size of the arena. So you go build something new, it eliminates the lifetime seat people, and they kind of get to start from scratch, and they get to sell the tickets for a lot more because it'll be a smaller building. They're talking about 16,000 instead of what they play now, which is just under 22. And they want to make it more of an experience. So I think the people that want this to happen are going to get their way because ultimately they are the decision makers. They're the people that want to build Belichick, so they got him. They're the people that want Carolina North. The school is going to lay down ground at Carolina North. And if you put something like this as the centerpiece there, they think it's going to be a win-win for the future.
Andrew Jones, Tar Heel Illustrated, with us here. Tar Heel 247. I got to drop one in the virtual swear jar as we sign off, Andrew. That's my penance, and what do I need to bring you as a peace offering tomorrow in Charlottesville?
No, just you. Just get there and get home safely to your family, man. That's all. Yeah, it's interesting because I actually said THI one time on a podcast recently, and we're 6 months in now, and I'm pretty comfortable saying Tar Heel 24/7 and being part of that network, and we've had a tremendous amount of success and an incredible response from from fans. We're much larger than we were before, and that's phenomenal. But every once in a while, the THI thing kind of creeps in with me as well.
Well, I'm glad I got your forgiveness, Andrew. We appreciate your time. We say farewell for now, and good Lord willing, see you tomorrow in Charlottesville.
I'm looking forward to seeing you, my friend. Take care now.
Andrew Jones, Tar Heel 247. I got it right in the fast lane. When we return, Luke Hancock, ACC basketball analyst.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. The games play here. It's time to find out who will play for Super Bowl 60 with Conference Championship Weekend. Coverage starts at 2:30 p.m. as the Broncos take on the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Then the NFC Championship game as the Seattle Seahawks will take on the LA Rams. Check out Conference Championship Sunday at 2:30 p.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 AM, and the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I guess you could say we are continuing our preparations for Snowmageddon 26 here in the Fast Lane and at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Is good luck going to the grocery store. I've had to go the last couple of days, and blessings and prayers for anybody who has to walk in there because the lines are long, the patience is thin, and it just is what it is. And it's even impacting college basketball. We've seen it, and we've already touched on it with Virginia and North Carolina from Charlottesville, and the fact that Tony Bennett Court, the naming of the ceremony, is going to be moved back into the middle of February. Prayers that the weather doesn't impact it again. And yes, the Virginia Tech Hokies, whose game you can hear after that on the VTRN Sports app this coming Saturday against Louisville, also impacted by it. So the question now is our next guest, Luke Hancock, Roanoke native, ACC network analyst, and former Louisville Cardinal and Hidden Valley Titan, with us here in the Fast Lane. Luke, great to be speaking with you. Are you and your family surviving all the chaos around Snowmageddon?
Thank you for having me. First off, I'm sure everybody's seen these little memes and whatnot where it's projected that we're going to have 0 to 165 inches of snow, and nobody knows exactly when it's going to start or when it's going to stop. So we've made the runs to the grocery store and kind of loaded up, but I think we're going to be all good. My trip this weekend, usually I'm up at ESPN in Connecticut, so they decided to keep us home this weekend. So I'll be doing all my stuff from the house and still be locked in on all these games, but seems like everything's changing. Everybody's getting ready, and the most excited person is probably my 4-year-old for Snowmageddon to happen.
It's crazy. I mean, looking at the schedule for this Saturday, Florida State's at SMU, Boston College is at Notre Dame, which is odd because they're less impacted by than many of us. And then Cal and Stanford, and those are the only 3 games that have not been moved up to like the noon or the 2 o'clock Eastern window. How many screens are you going to be juggling, keeping up with all this early game action Saturday?
Somebody's going to need to take a picture of me because I will have, the phone, the iPad, 2 computers, and a TV all trying to check out games. Like you mentioned, noon's going to be crazy and 2 o'clock's going to be crazy. And then we just kind of wait around for the classic ACC battle between Cal and Stanford to close out the night. But it's all good, man. This is kind of what we're used to, and maybe a little bit more jumbled up at the beginning of the day, but it's going to be awesome. Great slate of games, and almost halfway through the conference slate. It seems crazy to say that. I mean, everybody's at least a third of the way in, and season's rolling, man, rolling right along.
It is. And, you mentioned the conference slate. We're approaching the halfway point of that. North Carolina and Virginia is the big early game in our area, of course, with Tony Bennett Court delaying the announcement, and the announcement's been made, but the dedication ceremony, it's been moved back to the Miami game in the latter part of February. For Virginia, are we at the point now where they might need to be considered as the second best team in the ACC, given what they did in your backyard against Louisville and following it up against SMU before the bye and getting ready to take on Carolina Saturday?
I certainly think so. I think, you ask who would have the biggest problem with that. And, Clemson probably going to be the one to stand up and say, hey, we're right there with one loss as well. But I think the eye test right now, Virginia seems like the most complete team. Both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively, they've got a really special group. There are some pieces maybe you didn't think would be quite as impactful, guys like Chance Mallory that have stepped up and been huge pieces for this team. The studs, guys like Malik Thomas, have really turned it on lately. They've got the bigs and the interior presence, shot blockers, can really defend in there, can finish inside. They've got shooters, they've got slashers. Again, I look at this team, there are not a lot of holes with this Virginia roster. And, you look at how they're playing comparatively to other top teams across the country. When you have a top 20 offense and you have a top 20 defense and you're not turning the basketball over, you're starting to see, man, this team could easily be a one-loss team up to this point. I mean, your one loss in conference play is that triple overtime game with Virginia Tech. Obviously could have gone either way. And probably their worst performance of the year was against Butler on a neutral site. That's the only two losses. Like, Virginia is steadily climbing. The metrics love them. I'm ready to anoint them as playing the second best basketball in this league. And certainly I think when it does come time to give Duke a challenge, they will be up for that challenge.
They'll only have one matchup against Duke. That's a little over a month from now in February, and it's down in Durham. When you look at Virginia right now, and Luke Hancock, Roanoke native, ESPN and ACC Network basketball analyst, is with us in the fast lane, is the one thing missing from Virginia that next level explosiveness and athleticism and skill, the way that Duke has, particularly with the generational talent in Boozer?
Well, I'm gonna key in on the words you chose, right? Like explosiveness, high level athlete. Like, Boozer is certainly a high level athlete, but he's not this like explosive AJ DeBanza type athlete. He's not Cooper Flagg who's just going to try and dunk on you every second. Like, I think they're showing there are different ways to get it done. Virginia, Cam Boozer, certainly have athletes across the board, but I like Virginia's style. Maybe not going to wow you with jumping over people, but they're solid. They play well together. And I like how the pieces tend to complement each other. A lot of versatility, a lot of complementary skill sets. If you're trying to find holes in this team, I guess elite athleticism might be that one knock. But again, shot making, fundamentals, being sound with the basketball, playing off of 2 feet, those things kind of counter that elite athleticism. And that's coming from a guy who was slow and not very athletic, but I still found a way to get it done out there. I see Virginia basketball as just getting it done. Again, not very many negatives with this team.
So you mentioned that, and I wouldn't undersell your athleticism, Luke, although we remember you from when you were at Hidden Valley, George Mason, and Louisville, as being a good athlete and certainly a good three-point shooter. When you, in your own assessment, may not be as athletic as some of the other players on the court, what do you do to compensate for that so that you can still have the impact that you did and that a lot of these players now want to have for their teams?
Yeah, a couple things. Like I said, I'm not the fastest guy in the world. I'm not just going to go jump over you, but I could play angles very well. And once I kind of had a defender on my hip, I was pretty good at closing off the opportunity to get back in front. I did a good job of getting to the free throw line. And then ultimately, what can cure a lot of the ills on the basketball court is shot making. And if you knock down shots, you can find a way to get on the floor. Now, defensively, it can't just be a total liability, but if you're making shots, that is a huge first step. And then, personally, I had the ability to have a good pump fake. Sam Young was my influence in getting that kind of long, exaggerated pump fake that got defenders off their feet. And what do you do after that? Being a good decision maker, again, being able to draw fouls, having good teammates around that space the floor for you. All those things kind of played in to help my game. And again, I think Virginia has so many of those guys and those pieces to the puzzle that not that they don't have athletes, but they can kind of get away with playing off these long closeouts, using pump fakes, getting to the free throw line. Just a real complete offense when you start to look at all these pieces. I mean, DeRitter is probably the best example on Virginia. He's not huge, although, 6'8", 6'9", 240 is a big guy, but he's not overwhelming you with his size. He plays the angles really well. He's making shots at a decent clip from three and efficient when he gets inside the paint. So he's a guy that, again, angles, knows how to play the game, high IQ, good passer, and is certainly playing great basketball right now for Virginia.
Luke_Skywalker with an A, 11 on Instagram, and Luke Skywalker 11 on Twitter as well for Luke Hancock, who's with us in the Fast Lane, ACC Network and ESPN Analyst, and we're at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts, and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well, is live on the VTR and Sports app. We've touched on Virginia. We've touched on kind of that top trio in the ACC, and thank you for bringing up Clemson. They deserve to be mentioned in that. After that top trio, I mean, are we looking at like 9 to 10 teams at this point that could reasonably making their case as the type of teams that could join those three that many project to be in the NCAA tournament from the ACC?
Oof, there is a big glob there. Mark Packer used to call it the glob, kind of right after that front list of teams there. But yeah, you've got a ton of teams that are right in that mix. Miami, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, SMU, Louisville. You could probably throw Syracuse in there. Stanford's held up well to this point. Teams like NC State could surprise you if they continue to put things together. Maybe not a great body of work now, but could certainly surprise you. Even Cal, I mean, they're a team you have to go in there and with a great game plan, bringing your own energy and not underestimating them at 14-5. They've got a pretty good resume together as well. And right now, there are a few teams you kind of don't want to take a loss to because they'll be resume killers. But the majority of this league, we had 14 out of 18 teams in the top 75 in net as of last week. And that's quad one win opportunities right there. And that's the big difference between this year and previous is that the metrics like the league so much more because of how they handle business in the non-conference. So you're going to have opportunities to improve your resume. And it's not like last year in regards to Clemson and Louisville go 18-2 in the league and Duke goes 19-1. I know we're not even playing 20 games this year, but you don't have to have that kind of ACC slate in order to make the tournament this year.
Luke Skywalker 11 on Twitter, Luke_Skywalker 11 on Instagram, and on the ACC Network and ESPN as Luke Hancock is with us here in the Fast Lane. You referenced the metrics, but you are a discerning basketball eye, not just as an analyst, but having played the game at a high level, winning a championship, playing for Rick Pitino, Coach Pitino, one of the best in college basketball history. So this is where we believe you can factor into the equation on this. Is it also better, the ACC, when you look at it from the eye test perspective?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, sometimes your record is what it is, and that you can't get away from it. But there's plenty of teams that have been really close, have had lots of opportunities, and had close losses to really good teams. A team like Louisville, that maybe their record might not indicate how good of a team they are, especially when fully healthy. I think you probably say that about Virginia Tech and TJ being injured and Lawal being injured. How many close losses? Like you look at the losses Virginia Tech has suffered, and they are brutal, heartbreaking losses. Number one, that those losses aren't as bad in the metrics because the margin factors in. But number two, that's not a team that you can go in and take lightly. Like this game against Louisville this weekend is going to be a big time basketball game, and could be a huge resume win for Virginia Tech. Could be a kind of get right game for Louisville and them starting to continue to ascend a little bit. And again, injuries playing a big part of it. Both those teams kind of waiting on guys to come back. But yeah, I mean, eye test, without a doubt, the league is better as a whole. And you could go all the way to the bottom. I saw Florida State is going into the season picked as the worst team in Power 4 plus the Big East. And I saw them play in some exhibitions early, and I said, no way. And they might not be great, but there's no way they're going to end up as the worst team in college basketball, in major college basketball. So I think that's played out. Again, some of the teams at the bottom, injuries and maybe not having a full complement of guys, but the league as a whole is dramatically stronger than it's been the last few years.
A couple more with Luke Hancock with us in the Fast Lane. We're grateful for your time. Virginia Tech at Louisville. That's the second game of our slate Saturday on the VTRN Sports app. Mike Hill Brown Jr. for Louisville has had injuries. You referenced Toby Lawal and Tyler Johnson for Virginia Tech and their injuries. Both these teams are kind of in that clustered blob, as we were discussing earlier. Because of the injuries and how these teams are scrapping right now, do you expect maybe a more physical, intense game than you would even normally get and is a staple of ACC play when they square off Saturday?
Probably. There's so much chaos going on. I'm anxious to see who's going to be able to kind of lock in, moving game times, travel schedules, and everybody just anticipating all this snow. It can be distracting for teams. So I am anxious to see how Virginia Tech comes in and how they really start the game. The bookends we always talk about to start and end halves are really important. When Louisville played Virginia, it was the start of the game that killed them. They just started out not embracing the physicality. And, Virginia Tech and Mike Young, they're going to go watch film on all of Louisville's games. They're going to see if you go punch Louisville in the mouth first, that is your opportunity to take control of the game. So I again, not with all the distractions, but game plan wise, I think Virginia Tech will think we got to go in there and punk these guys. And most of that happens with front court play, right? The bigs. And Virginia Tech, with their depth and a full complement, is more athletic and more physical than Louisville. So we'll see if that is the difference maker in this game and really sets the tone early.
Sounds like we'll be able to feel the intensity and physicality through the speakers on the VTRN Sports app this Saturday when Virginia Tech and Louisville square off, and throughout the games that we carry right here on VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. Luke Hancock with us in the Fast Lane. Luke, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane, and rest assured in the Roanoke and Lynchburg areas, people have already gone as crazy as they have out where you are in Louisville for Snowmageddon.
Well, stay safe, man. It should be wild knowing how weathermen do things. We could have a couple inches or we could have 2 feet. So we'll expect anything to happen. And as far as the games go, between Virginia Tech and Virginia, this is going to be a weekend to be locked into college basketball. Thanks for having me, man. We'll do it again soon.
It's our pleasure. Luke Hancock, and a great way to wrap up the Fast Lane. If you missed it, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVGM Lynchburg.
Is Sports Center.
I'm Ed Bank, and it is championship weekend in the NFL. The